Welcome back. You're watching The Lounge. My guests, Osei-Agyeman, architect, Akosua, Adomako, Ampofo, academic, Franklin, Cudjoe, Imani, Ghana, and talkative. Let's take a moment and toast to authentic whiskey. Let's toast to Johnnie Walker, the original taste of whiskey. Since 1820, Johnnie Walker has remained the world's #1 Scotch whiskey and has won numerous awards for excellence. This because the impeccable formula of distillation has been jealously guarded over the ages, thus its distinctive taste. Johnnie Walker comes from an intricate blend of a wide spectrum of carefully selected flavors, giving it that unique taste savored by millions all over the world. So let's toast to the unquestionable taste of whiskey. Johnnie Walker, the whiskey the world knows best. Johnnie Walker, keep walking. Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under 18 and pregnant women. We're live at the La Palm Royal Beach Hotel's dimly lit Equator Bar. Franklin.
No, I was going to say something where the Venerable Architect left off. You know, that whole issue about the party having this hold on the leader, and especially in this case where John was possibly trusted to power by accident. It's something we need to watch, because this morning I listened to City FM and there was a discussion about how the party would have to behave even with this new precedent, because there's some suggestion, and I think they picked it through the grapevine, that the neck of the party suggested,
the National Executive Committee
of the MPB suggesting that, look, before he goes further, his appointments ought to be vetted by the party.
Before the president-elect.
Exactly. There's a certain sense that the party would have some stake in these appointments. But I think that we ought to be quite careful, because you see, the president, the president-elect, while he was campaigning, obviously had in mind a certain caliber of persons he wanted to work with. And it's important that he's not derailed. The party can at best make suggestions. Because if we don't do that and we allow this, what I call, it's actually a carnage to go on, then the dissatisfaction builds up almost instantly. And given the first, second, third, by the fourth year, there'll be so much, acrimony, to the extent that some people may decide that they are not even going to campaign. But I think the Nado largely is a man of his own, and I think he has to navigate those rather terrible waters.
I think you segued us into the prospect of the Akufo-Addo presidency quite seamlessly. So already he's made these appointments, but these are sort of backroom staff. These are operatives in his office, essentially, people that will enable his office run, and it's very kind of, I think, very granular level. Certainly. And I think the individuals that have been named are people, most of them are people
close associates
that have been working with him over the last 8 years, and it would be it's not surprising that when he's going to begin his presidency, he would carry these people along, because it would make for a smoother transition from candidate to president.
Well, not necessarily with regards to the kitchen cabinet at all. I think he's done exceedingly well by keeping those people. Some of them I quite know that well. I think the warning signals are rather coming from people who may have been pressing certain demands as he begins to name the people who ran.
Because he's already named some, made some nominations.
But these are
from Pomboatin, Alan Martin.
Yeah, these are expected. The only sad part of it, though, is that when you allow the party to become the dominant force, but it was the former defense minister, Dr. What's his name again? In the NDC government, he was a defense minister. It was Kumbo who did say that in governance, he actually quoted Karl Popper, the philosopher, and suggested that in governance you need both the very wise the middle stupid, and then obviously those down
and
there.
they are wise.
But you need to do the permutations that well. We've seen how President Mills, may he so rest in peace, led us onto this path, which I suspect John wanted to continue, and then gave us babies with shut teeth. I think it will be important that the new president is guided by what had just happened, so that we don't suffer some of these absurdities.
There's a gentleman who called on the radio station, I think a day or two ago, and suggested that one of the first things that the president should do when prospecting for appointees or nominees was let the individuals open their mouth for a dental check to see how sharp their dental formula.
I suspect that will be at the vetting.
Maybe before.
But anyway, Akos, President Akufo-Addo presidency, what are your expectations?
Well, certainly somebody who will hold the show and keep the bicycle from rolling down the hill without brakes. So
we'll keep the bicycle from riding him.
Yeah, he needs to ride the bicycle rather than the bike, just being pulled by gravity. And commenting on some of what Franklin has said about party and those who are in governance, the president. I think these are compromises that in any democratic system the president has to make. It's not just about you. You have to make compromises with your party about appointments. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So you have to make sure that those that you appoint are people that you trust, whose competence you have no doubt about, and who you believe the Ghanaian people will also trust. So these are discussions you have to have with the party. If they don't like your choice and they bring another one and that person fulfills the criteria, you can compromise. But you can't just pick somebody that the party wants because the party wants the party, the person, I'm sorry. And I believe that there are enough Ghanaians to go around to fill these positions. So, as horse trading goes on, and it will, just come up with people that we trust will do the job. And we'll make mistakes. Some people will be picked who won't do the job, who won't be honest, who may even be disloyal to the party, because you've also got to be loyal to your party. Get rid of them, immediately. Don't let them linger and cause cancers here and there that will cause the party to suffer. So I expect to see him in command, but also to listen, to be humble, to be teachable. And I'm sure we'll speak about some of the specifics, but let me say something that is really on my heart. We don't seem to have a national identity, a national ethos. Who are we as Ghanaians? Do we feel proud of our country? I remember not so many years ago, a young man came to see me, and I don't know why he thought I could help him, except that maybe I'm a big person in Ghana. He said he wanted help getting a visa. And I said, a visa to where? I don't work in an embassy. He says, anywhere. Essentially, what he was saying was that he wants to be anywhere but in Ghana. Anywhere is fine. This was not Liberia, this was not Sierra Leone. Ghana was not good for him. And there are so many young people who've lost, a feeling of, maybe die for your country, maybe asking too much, but
you didn't
sacrifice for your...
You don't know anybody at the embassy of the Central African Republic?
I don't.
Since you wanted to go anywhere but here.
Anywhere, but that would have been hard. I wouldn't have been that unkind. But the point being, who are we? Who are we as a people? What's our national policy? Where do we want to see ourselves? What's the president's vision that we can all buy into, that can make us feel that this is our country, we love it, we are proud of it. And it needs to feed into everywhere, into healthcare, into education, into particularly for me, the arts and culture, because those are areas that everybody hooks into. Everybody listens to music. Everybody will go and watch a play. And
tourism.
Pardon?
Tourism.
Exactly. So, and there are young people who are trying hard. You can see they weren't born with silver spoons in their mouths. They are trying hard, but the system is not helping. And they are wondering, why bother? if the president and his team make us feel again the kind of feeling that when my father talks about Ghana in the 1950s moving into the independence, where he was living in the UK, he's like, no, I'm not going to get a British passport for what? That kind of feeling that people can say yes.
So let's make Ghana great again.
Yeah. I guess. Let's make Ghana great again. And it's got to filter to every, it's not the rhetoric.
Right.
And it's not so hard. Some of it is not so hard to do. These are things that you can begin to feel even before the money trickles down to fix the economy, to fix the healthcare system, to fix the GET fund, to fix NHIS, before these things get fixed, because it'll take a while.
So a sense of pride.
A sense of pride, and this is our 60th anniversary.
Right.
So beyond the party that we'll have on 6th March, let's see something that we can look forward to as Ghanaians. That why should Ghanaians be praying that, Charlie, God, don't let Black Stars win? People didn't want Black Stars because we were like kind of fed up. And I mean, this is your national football team, but you feel so lousy about the country and the way football has been treated that you're like, please don't let them win, because if they win, we'll lose more money. And I think that's, that ethos needs to come back, and we need a president who will make us feel like, make Ghana great again, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, she said a number of things that I've also thought about. I looked at ownership of the journey, let me put it that way. And we've had too many experiments, and I think we need a sustainable agenda. When I say sustainable, I think as a country, the only sustainable agenda we've had is to get independence. At least sustainable because we had a vision, we had strategies, we had a mission, and we achieved. Beyond that, there have been several attempts to try and move this country, like she's saying, through both military and civilian, and really, we've gotten to the point where everybody has just recoiled into their personal mission, a personal corner, and is not too interested beyond that. In the past 8 years, people have tended to believe that when you belong to a party, the government actually owes you, and that sort of partisanship also doesn't help, At the end of the day, like she's saying, I expect that Nana would recognize that he's at a point in history where, excuse my language, the nonsense must be put aside. And as a nation, we must determine, as in 57, when we determined for Africa, we're at a point where we should also be doing that, So I expect that there will be real transformation. But I also expect that the citizens will recognize that the movement forward is a responsibility for all of us. I've heard too many times almost everybody in this room looking up to the president. And I'll tell you that more than half the problems in this country are created by the citizens. So I expect that, yes, you're supposed to provide leadership, leadership that is broad-based, leadership that is totally different from where we've come from. Without that, it will be another experiment, which for me doesn't cut.
So great expectations. Quick question. How is Akufo-Addo as a person different from John Mahama? What are the qualities that differentiate him from his predecessor, and which might make these expectations, these great expectations that obviously citizens that have voted in such huge, unprecedented numbers for him against an incumbent expect of him? Frankly,
well,
you know both of them.
I think
give me sound bites.
I think the issue really has to do with how the country will remember him. Don't forget, he comes from a family that already has political gravitas. on a personal level, I don't see Nana-Addo trying to fill the, if you like, the lineage. Why would he want to
raise your voice a little bit?
Well,
Do you
why
want a swig of whiskey?
See, I'm a shy person.
Wow, really?
Why would Nana-Addo want to derail the investment that have been made into the family name? And by
But
family, I like to use...
Yeah, but he may not want to. Of course he doesn't want to. And I'm sure John Mahama didn't want to. I'm sure Achampong, no leader, wants to.
Well,
but
I understand that. I'm just saying.
What is the software that around which he's built that will ensure that he will deliver these expectations?
Well, his speech, I mean, he's made several speeches. He's also done quite a number of active things that I suspect everybody who surrounds him understand that he's that diligent and likes to get results. I wish I could share some encounters, but I probably will share just one. I mean, in one of those encounters, he says that, look, I could have been much more involved and understood that some of the things that were happening under the presidency for which I was part of.
You mean the Akufo presidency?
Exactly. Couldn't have come to birth had I not been flying around. Now that gives me a certain sense that this is a person who really understands that even though collective responsibility means that you should go with the train, it also means that you could also stand up and say, well, I don't think this is the way things ought to be. So as I like to say a lot more, but I restrict myself to this encounter.
So he's a man of conviction.
I think he's a man of conviction, and he understands. Having interacted with him as well, I think he understands how governance works as well. And I'm saying that in addition to that family, that lineage, that respect, that investment that had been made. Don't forget his father was as president, even though ceremonial. And for me, that's the biggest, capital that he has. So any decision he wants to take, he would ask himself, well, how would I be remembered? And especially as really across the board has been agreed here that what we've just seen wasn't particularly interesting. So he liked to be different. The decision he made to keep Bawumia, by the way, for 3 times, I think,
Yes.
Against what many within the party didn't like, because people were also building the arsenal.
Yeah.
Tells me
It
clearly.
wasn't only about keeping him, it was first by choosing him.
Choosing him.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that decision itself, and don't forget, because this was a party that believes in meritocracy, and there's a hierarchical structure which ought to be followed. So a perceived outsider, and the decision to invest rather in his brains, rather than just the fact that he belonged to a group, again tells me that he would like to stand out. And if you have to juxtapose all of this against the very audacious promises that have been made, I think that he would have to be measured. I'm sure he will, because those promises are really interesting and mouth-watering. But I think he would largely like to achieve them. Okay. And we'll be there to shepherd him along.
All right. Akos.
Yeah, I've only met the president-elect a couple of times, so he's not somebody I can say that I know. I don't know him personally. One of my early encounters with President-elect was when many of us in civil society, and particularly in the women's movement, were working towards the passage of domestic violence legislation. And the initial drafting happened when he was Attorney General, in his office. There were some young lawyers who had just come back from Georgetown University, had some training in gender-based violence and so on. And he was very proactive, in that process and engaged with civil society around that. For me, it was very heartwarming to find a politician who, it wasn't just about the talk, who was interested in this process. And gender issues can be some way in Ghana, as we say here. It's like, what are you people talking about? Violence against women, what no? And he didn't have any of that attitude. He understood the issues and worked to get this document drafted. And for me, that said a lot. But I also think, in addition to whatever experience he's had, and he's not a young man, he's had a period to distill, let's say. Maybe good wine is a good example. He's had disappointment, and so I want to believe that having tried three times,
3.5. He failed, there was 98 where he lost in the primaries to President Akufo.
Exactly.
And had to wait 8 years
for his maybe turn, because he had no guarantees that the party would pick him in the primaries. So I believe that process will have humbled him somewhat, will have given him a teachable spirit, a listening ear, because really, as a leader, if you want to listen to people and take advice, and of course at the end of the day you have to decide whose advice you will take, but if you think that you know the answers and you will not listen, you will mess up eventually. Because you can't know it all, and as we say in Akan, as you are beating the path and it's crooked behind you, you can't see. You've got to have people to believe in, and I believe that this process will bring him there. He's been active in civil society, the Kumi Preko, and all of those.
People's movement for freedom and justice at the age of 33.
And he's worked with people from different ideological, I'm putting that in quotes because I'm not sure there's much ideology going on in Ghana right now, whether it's left or right. But he's worked across and with people of different persuasions. And that makes me hopeful that we're in for a good, what did you say, journey, flight, what did Osei-Agyeman say?
Journey. No. I think he's a man of conviction, like you said. But conviction is not enough. You've got to have positive conviction. I think he has an idea. He wants to make a big difference, which doesn't involve just you. So how you achieve that big difference in the end also involves how you package everything together, which means that you should be extremely knowledgeable in everything.
In most things, in many things.
Well, the back ends with you. The back ends with you. So you should be able to discern a lot of things. Whether you pick advice from 3 different people and put them together or what, but you should be able to discern what fits into that agenda. So that conviction alone, and the way and manner like things have started is like we mean business. And but we don't just mean business. We just don't want to be a page in the history book. We want to be a page that you will keep on reflecting. Otherwise, the 4 years is going to pass, and it's just going to be. But there must be a huge difference. And the point she made about our 60th year, I think he's so well situated, like in '57, to make a huge leap for just not the nation, but for the continent. And that is my expectation of him.